So before we just, sort of sit here and fangirl over each other, I think that I should allow you to introduce your book to the people who are watching.
Yeah, so Bluebird is my latest book that came out on Tuesday. I'm super excited about it. And it is a noir mystery thriller, I would say, about a girl named Eva, a German immigrant who is coming to New York City in the year 1946. And she is stepping from the fires of one war straight into another far colder one. But she isn't coming to America to start a new life. She is coming to seek justice and a Nazi who has slipped its net. And she's bringing a secret with her, a secret that neither she should have, or the Soviets, or the Americans, but a secret that nobody should have. And that is the secret of Project Bluebird.
And she hasn't told you anything.
I teased you with that.
Yeah. and so she shouldn't, because Bluebird is actually one of these books that it's really, really hard to talk about. So if you are listening and hoping to hear a sort of a plot summary or some kind of teaser like that, were you planning to read anything from it before I
can if you want me to, but I wasn't planning, but I am ready to do that at any time. I can give you just a little bit more of a setup, if that helps a little bit to kind of spark the conversation, because there's really two pieces of American history that are coming together to create Bluebird, and they were two pieces of forgotten history. One I found inspiring, one I found shameful, and they just both shocked me for absolute opposite reasons. And so the book centers around this first piece of history, which is called Powell House. And Powell House was a program being run by Quaker volunteers by the American Friends Service Committee out of a exclusive mansion on the Upper East Side of New York City. And the program was created to extend unconditional love, practical help, and friendship to the refugees of war. And it was a multi-religious, diverse program that brought together the Urban League and the Guggenheim and the Protestant churches, the Catholic churches, the Jewish Women's Council, government agencies from all over everywhere, all to provide practical help, big and small. If you needed a job, an apartment, a new suit of clothes, if you needed the buttons sewn back on your jacket, if you needed English lessons, American citizenship lessons, anything you needed, that's what they were there to provide. And they provided you a friend to take you around the city and show you how to use money in the subways and to answer any questions that you might have. And that friend could have been white, Black, Jewish, Christian, atheist, because the people of Powell House did not see borders, and they did not see race, and they did not see politics. They only saw people. And it truly was a program that was just so far ahead of its time in terms of social justice that it was actually just hard for me to believe that it existed in 1946. And the second piece of forgotten history is Project Bluebird. And Project Bluebird was a secret CIA operation begun just after the end of World War II. And the purpose of this was really horrific and inhumane medical experimentation for the purposes of mind control. So basically, they were hoping to create the perfect spies and assassins by controlling the human mind and not letting people know that they were spies and assassins. It was very Manchurian Candidate, science fiction sounding stuff, but they believed it was real, and the experiments were real, and they were being done on unwitting, unconsenting American citizens, and we were bringing Nazi war criminals in to do those experiments. So it was shocking, actually, to me to discover the reality of this program. And again, hard to believe it existed, but for reasons that could not be any more opposite.
So can I get straight? These programs didn't actually have anything to do with each other. It was you bringing them together.
Yes,
that made the book.
It was the fact that they existed at the same time. You know, they were both our country existing at the same time, and they just it felt very profound to me. Amazing. And it just was a way of illustrating the heights and depths of that humanity can reach.
So when I go and I give workshops in schools, one of the things I do is I try to get kids to come up with kind of opposites, and then, you know, make a list of this kind of thing and make a list of this kind of thing, and then to pick one of each and bring them together. And that's what makes the story. And that's kind of exactly what you've done here. And that actually leads me to into what I wanted to really have a conversation with you about, which is, since we can't actually talk about the plot, about
it's hard to talk without being spoilery.
And honestly, I can relate to this because, of course, my book Codename Verity is very much like that as well, where you just can't talk about anything. You can't even say the main character's name, which is kind of an issue in your book as well.
Yes, it's all very twisty.
Yeah. But as one writer to another, talking about how you put this together, and I think probably for a lot of listeners, it'll be interesting as well. How it came together, why you did some of the things that you did, and what you were thinking when you did them. So first question for you, and this is so super lame and you can almost see it coming, but plotter or pantser?
I am a plantser.
Do you know what? That's the perfect answer, because what I was going to say, and I'll let you go on in a minute, but what I was going to say was that it sounds like The Light in Hidden Places was like a book that was a gift. Like it just came out of you, and I don't want to say you didn't have to think about it, because obviously you do have to think about these things, but that this book was less so. There was much more that kind of went into the construction of it and how everything works out.
Much more complex.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So please, Lancer.
So, you know, I guess I have to start any work that I do. I have to start with a plan. Otherwise, I just don't have time to waste writing, you know, hundreds of pages that don't fit together the way they need to, or aren't going where they need to go. So I always start with quite a lot of plan. You know, I tend to I know my characters, I know my settings, I know the history that I'm working with. I know where I want that character to go. I know how I want the book to end. I know what I want, where I want that character to end. And I usually sit down and write myself a synopsis, and it's something that nobody else has to see. It's really ugly and messy and, you know, just single space, yada, yada. But it's just me telling myself the story from the beginning to the end, so that I have my setup, I have my plot, I have a chain of events, and I have an ending. But what happens when I actually sit down and get far enough into the story to be deeply enveloped in my world and immersed in my world? I'm a very immersive reader, and I find I'm an immersive writer as well. And when I get deeply immersed in my world, that's kind of when I know I've got something going. And when I get into that place, the ideas that I come up with while I'm writing are by far better than what I came up with when I was cold-bloodedly planning this book. I know my characters better. I've learned more. I've gotten to know them better. I know what they would do. And so I find that my ideas, are so much better when they are organic. But if I don't start with a direction, then I'm all over the place and I'm not very fast. And when you have a deadline, that's a thing.
Oh my gosh, I totally relate to this. Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
So Plancer, I plot it out and then change it like crazy.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever actually handed in a book that really plot
was what you said it was going to be.
I said I was going to write.
Yeah.